want to take 10 seconds and just declare to you and prophesy to you that all of you that are in this building and watching on live tonight that are facing any type of adversary or enemy, I want you to get a little excited, because the enemy is merely the evidence that the table has been set. Like, in order for me to be a little salty, godly salty, let me preface that statement, we got to go through either some digging or we got to go through some boiling. In order for us to be the salt of this earth, we're going to have to be digged out or we're going to have to be boiled out. Now look at this. That also says, according to scripture, that salt, as we know, represents preservation. So I want you to decree this next thing over your life, or put in the comment box this morning that the harder the pressure, the longer my preservation. Just talking about that level of service and servanthood, because there's a bigger picture that's engrafted in that. And a lot of it boils down to the intentionality of why we do what we do. So let's ask ourselves, are we folding the towels and putting them in the drawers? Are we getting the waters? Are we prepping the hospitality suites because it's an obligation? That's just what we're supposed to do. Or are we really doing it because somehow it is connected to the infiltration of our calling? And yet it could be a manifestation of the process of producing our promise. All right, good evening, everybody, to all of those on Instagram and all of the Facebook family. God bless you. Good evening to you. I'm so excited to be here with you all this evening. Do me a favor and let me know that you are hanging out with me tonight. Just say hello. Just give me a wave. Let me know that you can hear and see me okay. So all those on Instagram, do the same as well. Just put something in the chat box. Let me know that you're here. Let me know that you can hear me and see me good. And we're going to go ahead and get started here. I just want to take a few seconds and very simply just greet you and say thank you again so much for lending your time. Here we are, another Wednesday evening, a fantastic time of 15 minutes of faith, where every Wednesday we come here on these social media platforms at 9 p.m. and we have a great time. Life-changing information, life-impacting prayers, whatever we just feel led of from the Lord to discuss and partake in for that Wednesday evening is what we do. And so I just want to say hello to everybody. Let me know that you are here tonight. Let me know that you are watching. I want to greet you all. If you are joining us for the first time, my name is Ryan. I'm your host of 15 Minutes of Faith, where every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. we come to here on these various social media platforms, and we have a 15-minute, we'll try 15-minute, faith-based conversation centered around the Word of God that is designed to elevate our life, boost our faith, and ultimately plug in the necessities of what we need to advance in this life, okay? When I say advance in this life, I mean to live the best life that we have been given to live. Life is a gift, and we have a responsibility of this life to treat this life as precious as it can be. And so there are certain principles and rules and logistics that, we infuse in life to do what we do, which is to live the best life ultimately. So I want to greet you again. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to ask you all to please do what we normally do on every Wednesday night here. And we tag somebody in this video, share this video, get as many people in here tonight as possible, because I have just some inspiration that I want to share with you. And those on Instagram, do the same for me as well. And those on Facebook, go ahead and you know how we roll. So take a few seconds, just share this video, tag somebody in this video, and we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. Now, I'm particularly excited about tonight, and I'm going to dive right into it. I know we're only initially 2 minutes into this, but I'm going to dive right into it. I've given formal introductions and formal greetings, but I am excited and I'm pumped for what I want to share with you all this evening, and I don't want to waste any more time. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. This evening, I entitled our time together, Change It Up. It's time for a change, to be honest. And so the whole purpose and the reasoning behind it is to give us a sense of awareness. It's to give us a sense of idea. It's to give us a sense of necessity to make adjustments that are really, really required, and to make adjustments that are really significant to where we go and how we get there. And what I mean by where we go and how I get there, I'm referencing specifically about our destiny. I'm referencing specifically about what we're called to do, who we are supposed to become, and how are we going to become those individuals, right? Because it's important enough to understand that, hey, I've got a calling, I've got something to do in this life, but how do I do it? How do I get where I need to go? How do I become who I need to become? What are the assignments that I have to fulfill? Who are the lives that I have to touch? There's so many questions that are centered around what am I supposed to do? And some of the biggest identity issues that we have in life is not who am I and do I like this type of attire and what color hair do I like and all this kind of stuff. It really is who am I? And a lot of times we get stuck on the surface questions. We get stuck on the what's my style and what is the type of food that I like and am I more connected to this culture and am I more connected to that culture? In reality, what's happening with us as people in that moment is we are prone to be connected. We are wired, we are created, our DNA is infused with connectability. As much as sometimes we don't like people, as much as sometimes we can be an introvert, as much as sometimes, we want to put some time and space between us and other people, we were designed to be connected. And so a lot of times our pursuit, a lot of times our question of certain things is not really centered around, do I identify with this group of people? Do I identify with this culture of people? Do I gear more towards this? What is my style? What type of clothes do I like to wear? What kind of food do I like to eat? In reality, what you're saying is, who in the world am I? And because we're prone to that connectability, if we're not fulfilled in that connectability, then we are seeking for something. We are searching for something. Hey, Pastor Kendra, good evening. God bless you. Thank you so much for being on here tonight. I hope and pray that you are doing well. And so we're talking about change it up. We're talking about it's time for a change, so let's change it up, okay? And so if we're wired for connectability, if our DNA requires relationship, right? And sometimes that relationship fosters self-identity. Okay, when we have inordinate relationships, which are unbalanced or unequally yoked relationships, and it's not just a boyfriend, girlfriend, a husband and wife. I'm talking about a friendship, a relationship, something that you are connected with that is inordinate or inappropriate. A lot of times it stifles your inability to really discover oneself. And so what happens is people tend then to gravitate towards who they think they're supposed to be. They gravitate towards the things that they think they're supposed to do. They start acting in ways and manners and speaking in ways and tones that are really not who they are, but they just haven't really, because they haven't self-identified, right? They're mimicking those that are in front of them. They're mimicking those that they believe they're supposed to be. And so here we are tonight, and we're having more of a conversation that is centered around kind of like a life coaching infused topic this evening, because we've got to come into our own identity. We've got to self-identify with who we are and what we're supposed to do with this gift of life so that we can actually fulfill the mandate that our life is called to fulfill. And so when we don't do that, then we misappropriate, or we have an inordinate relationship with connectability, and we find ourselves pursuing a model of who we think we're supposed to be and not the actual template that we were designed to become. And so a lot of times we find ourselves stifled and wallowing in business problems and desires and promises and things that are in our heart for complete fulfillment, right? We have this desire and we have this push and we have this thrust behind us, but we really don't know sometimes what it is. And we really don't know what we've got to do to scratch that itch. And so then here we are trying to plug in all of these others. Hey, God bless you, Billy. So good to have you on here. Here we are trying to have all of these other attributes that we feel are supposed to be part of who we are. And we find all these pieces to the puzzle, hoping that if we bring it together, we can paint this canvas of self-identification. But in reality, when we bring it together and we put it together and we kind of step back, we realize we're left with a mess. We're left with a picture that we did not want to paint. And so tonight, the topic of change it up, because it's time for change, is centered around the fact that we've got to ask ourselves some questions tonight. So tonight we're doing more of a life coaching self-evaluation because it is time that we no longer operate in a templated version of who we think we're supposed to be, but we actually operate in the actual templated version of who we are actually supposed to be. In other words, it's time to get out of other people's shadows. It's time to get out of other people's overbearance. It's time to stop following and become a leader. It's time to be okay with going against the grain. It's time to be okay with the fact that you may be different than everybody else. It's time to be okay with the fact that you are not called to do maybe what other people are called to do. It's time to just be okay with the fact that you have something that is of equivalent to impact, right? That you have to fulfill, but in a different method to which you have to fulfill it. So tonight's topic is change it up. Why? Because it is time for a change. And just to kind of give you an idea of the spark of thought and the spark of inspiration that came from this, is I was listening to an incredible podcast today. And in this incredible podcast today, there was a excerpt from a paper, a journal entry from a paper that was written. And the basis of it, without going into detail, was talking about society. It was talking about how burdensome life has become. It's talking about how the pressure has been put on people to succumb to political formulations and social pressured expectations, and God forbid if you are a Trump supporter or not a Trump supporter, or God forbid if you are for abortion or not for abortion, or God forbid if you are good at what you do or not good at what you do, or God forbid this, that, and the other, right? Everybody has their own opinions, viewpoints, and reasonings for those. Now, while this particular journal did not reference those things that I just referenced in terms of the political and the socioeconomic issues, but it did reference the fact that between the weight of government, the weight of politics, the expectations of society, the fact that people just are not doing well at large, it is putting pressure on the human race. And the human race can only take so much pressure before it breaks. And so it was talking about, how do we manage this pressure that we have come under? How do we manage the scientific downfalls? And, is there vaccinations for us? Is there not vaccinations for us? Do vaccinations work? Do they not work? Right? Again, didn't reference particularly vaccinations, but talked about how the media and the government pushes specific scientific and medical agendas, and how we as humans are just expected to formulate to the framework of which that is painted before us. And so what was interesting is that it literally to the T defined the time that we are currently in. However, when you research this particular journal entry, it was written and released to the Atlanta Journal in Atlanta in the late 1800s. Hey, good evening, Angela. Good to have you on here, sis. In the late 1800s. And what was interesting to me is that it literally defined the current season and state of our society that we are in today. However, it was written in the 1800s. So we know the adage, the old adage that, if certain things aren't fixed, history is doomed to repeat itself. So here we are now looking at words that were written a century ago, and yet it is so applicable to today's society. So what really is the difference? When we have a space of time, what really is the difference? The difference is this. It is the same people, but a different vehicle. Okay. And what I mean by that is that we are in the same position in some areas, just in the year 2022, right? And we are in the same position in some areas, but given additional avenues of execution. In other words, the time that it would have taken to write a journal in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and place it and edit it and proof it and print it and get it out to the community versus the time that it takes to type and click a button are two different methods, right? And so while the passengers or the things that are inside or the issues are the same, the vehicle is different. And what we got to be careful of is that we can change vehicles, okay? But the change of vehicles sometimes only get the passengers where they're going faster. So now here we are dealing with the same issues of that era, okay? But we just have different outlets. We have different methods, right? We've got different ways to speak and promote. We have different ways to portray our platforms on that get messages out significantly quicker, and sometimes can taint truth, and sometimes can taint raw and real messages. We've got different vehicles that act faster. These aren't horse-drawn carriages we're dealing with today. These are high-power electrical based vehicles that have some up 500 plus horsepower. We're not dealing with the one little horse carrying the carriage today. We're dealing with a vehicle that can park itself. The difference between then and now is we have a different vehicle, but the passengers are still the same. And my encouragement to you all today is to take a self-evaluation. And I'm going to conclude with just a brief word of prayer at the end of this, but I want everybody to take a self-evaluation today. And I want you to ask yourself, okay, I changed vehicles, but do I need to change passengers, right? We have different methods of execution, but do we need to change the message? Okay, what can I do to become the change of positive impact versus the individual that continues to push an agenda that is not according to my original identity? Remember, in the very beginning, we talked about an identity crisis. We talked about, am I doing what I'm supposed to do or becoming who I'm supposed to become, or am I mimicking a template of another one that is set before me? Therefore, allowing and causing and forcing myself to be shoved into a mold or a model or a framework that I was never called to fit into. And so tonight we're saying change it up. Tonight we're saying we've got to make a change, because I need you to ask yourself these two questions. Number one, do I need to change my vehicle? And number two, do I need to change my passengers? What is that representative of us today? Number one, that is representative of, do I need to switch and change and mold and fix certain things inside of me? And do I need to change the method of which I am using to become who I think versus who I know I'm supposed to be? See, I want to encourage you with this in my final commentary over the next couple of minutes here. And the reason why I'm challenging everybody to ask yourselves, do I need to change my vehicle or do I need to change my passengers, is because for years and years and years and generations and generations and generations, we've never changed the passengers. We've just changed the vehicle. But tonight, I want you to ask yourself, do I need to not only change the vehicle, do I need to change my passengers? The things that are inside of us, the ones that we are connected to, the images that we are going forth with, the models and the framework to which we are trying to mold ourselves into. We got to stop for a moment and really, really self-identify who we really are. Who is Ryan? Who are you? What is your life meaning? Who are you supposed to be? What impact are you supposed to leave on the earth? What are you called to do? And the way to start to reveal and unlayer and fold back to see with clarity is to ask yourself, do I need to change my vehicle or do I need to change my passengers? Because we have to completely self-identify who we are supposed to be. Now, the reason why I'm encouraging everybody to do that tonight, again, we're in more of a life coaching kind of a mode. These are just nuggets of life to impact life. Nuggets of life to impact life is what we're releasing tonight, because we have to understand that the reason why we have to ask these questions is because these questions are self-evaluation. Okay. So we're taking a poll, we're taking a survey on ourselves tonight. Okay. And when we do that, what we're doing is we're trying to put things in place that, number one, make it a lot easier for us to get to where we need to go. And number two, will allow us to be more stable once we get there. Okay. So we are at least at a maximum 5 years or less away from the life we really want to live. Okay. I need you to know that tonight when you are asking yourself, do I need to, because we've operated for generations with the same people, just a different vehicle. When you ask yourself, do I need to not only change my vehicle, but do I need to change my passengers? When you're asking yourself that question, you have to ask it with the mindset and the framework that I am really 5 years or less away from becoming the person that I really want to become, from living the life that I really want to live, from being in the financial position that I really want to be in. What is the difference between you and that mark of that 5 years? That difference is implementation. Okay. And so if we have a goal for our 5 year, and we say, if I'm 5 years or less away from the life that I really want to live, how does that look? Number one, what is my financial situation? What is my mental health like? What is my physical health like? What is my spiritual fortitude? Where's my faith? We have to ask ourselves all of those questions. And if in that 5 year mark, that benchmark, that 5 year or less, whatever we need to do in terms of the implementation for the appropriate self-identification that we have to instill, that's what we have to move towards in this next season. And we have to do it with aggression. So here's why. If we are 5 years or less away from becoming who we really want to become and living the life that we really want to live, and all those on Facebook and all those on Instagram and the rest of the social media platforms, hear me tonight. If we are 5 years or less away from the dream life, that means that the process of fulfillment is not always fun. There are some things in this process that we may have to do that we just don't really want to do. We don't really prefer it. Okay. All those that are in real estate, you know what it's like sometimes when you've got to amp up the business, when you've got to work on some client retention and you've got to lead generate. Okay. It is not always the most fun thing to do when you have to wake up in the morning, you have to hit those phones. You've got to call those for sale by owners. You got to call those expired listings or whatever industry that you're in. There's something in your career. There's something in your dream. There's something in your life that you have to do that is a requirement of the process, but not so much fun. So here's what I want to leave you with tonight in my last couple of minutes with you. As we talked about the need for self-identification, really identifying who you are at the core and not the version of you that you think you're supposed to be compared to other people. And once you've done that, we're asking ourselves, do I need to change the passengers and the vehicle or one of each? Because we've done the same thing for years and years and years. We've had the same passengers, just a different vehicle. And when we come to this point right here, realizing that we really are 5 years or less away from the dream life that we want to live, and the only thing that's stopping us between now and then is implementation, then this is how we have to navigate through implementation. This is my last nugget for you tonight. How we navigate through implementation is that we've identified the things that we really don't want to do, identified things that we really don't care to do, identify the things that aren't fun, we wish we didn't have to, whatever it specifically may look like. Once those things have been identified that are part of the requirement of the process, but not necessarily the thing that we want to do, then what we have to do is we have to do the things that we don't like to do as first and as fast as possible. Okay? If we do the things we don't necessarily want to do as fast as possible and get them out of the way, okay, then actually here's, let me hold on one second. I'm going to find this note because I want to add one more thing to that. Hold on one second. Well, I'll say it like this. You do the thing you don't want to do as fast as you can so that you can do the things you do want to do as long as you can. Okay? That's my last nugget for you tonight. You do the things, okay? Again, we're talking about the things that are required in the process of your manifestation of this life, right? The things that you have to do that you really don't want to do, okay? But you have to do it. You do the things you don't want to do as fast as you can so you can do the things you like to do as long as you can. Okay? Because too often we get swallowed up in the negativity and the things that we don't like and the things that we don't want to do. And we waste and spend our time, our effort, our endurance, our strength on the things that really bug us the most. And we eat that time, or we compensate, or we reallocate that time that we could have been spending to enjoy and do the thing that we like to do. and it's been reallocated and eaten up and swallowed up by the things that we really don't want to do. So we do the things that we have to do but don't want to do as fast as we can, so we can do the things we want to do as long as we can. Okay, so keep that in remembrance tonight as we wrap up these last few moments here. And so I hope something has been said this evening to at least just, again, this is 15 minutes of faith. We're just taking these faith-based conversations and fusing it into our businesses, diffusing it into our life. Tonight, we come at from more of a life coaching concept, more than just what we normally do. I know 15 Minutes of Faith tends to have a variety of types of styles, of topics and conversations. And we've been getting back on Instagram because people are asking us to get on Instagram because they're not able to catch it on the Facebook Lives. So we're trying to implement all these different platforms to get the message and the word out there. And so I hope and pray that something has been said tonight that provokes your thought to, number one, self-identify, getting into who you are really supposed to become versus the model or the template you keep forcing yourself into. Realizing that we have the same people, just a different vehicle, and we have to assess and ask ourselves, do I need to not only change the passengers, but do I also have to change the vehicle or the method or the mode of getting me to somewhere? And then realizing that in this process, we are really just a few steps away, 5 years or less from living the life that we want to live. The only difference is implementation. And to navigate through that implementation, we have to do the things we don't want to do first as fast as we can, so we can do the things we enjoy to do as long as we can. So I want to leave you with that tonight. Instagram, I want to thank you so much for your time this evening. I'm going to go ahead and bid you all a farewell because I was trying to keep this within our 15-minute confinement. And so I'm going to bid you a farewell tonight, and then I'm going to go ahead and bid Facebook a farewell tonight. But I thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for joining. Make sure you set your reminders right here every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for 15 Minutes of Faith. I look forward to seeing you next week. God bless. And for Facebook, and I'll go ahead and I'll post this again on there as well. But I just want to speak God's blessings upon you. I want to just declare that the Lord continue to bless and increase and expound you in your businesses and your pursuits and your organizations or whatever it is that you have your hands in to do. And while you're doing it, just remember to find yourself. Okay? The most comfortable skin to be in is your own. All right? So I speak God's blessings upon you. I'll see you next week right here. 15 Minutes with every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. God bless.